Do you ever watch a movie and find yourself pausing, not because of what's happening in the story, but because you just want to look at it? That's me, with Akira, every single time. Every flicker of neon, every background, and every cell. It blows my mind. I can't help but imagine all the work, all the effort, all that beauty, all born from a single vision. From the mind of Katsuhiro Otomo, a vision so ambitious it demanded the will of over 1,300 animators. That's not just a project, that's an ecosystem of obsession. That kind of effort fascinates me beyond belief. If I were a rich man, you bet I'd be buying original cells from auction sites, locking them away in private cases, and pulling them out at night just to look at them. I think about the years they spent crafting something of such emotional power and technical precision. And when you start to dig into how they did it, you realize it wasn't just animation. It was creative extremism. Akira wasn't just made, it was endured. And it has endured. Why? Because this film was forged in a narrow window of time, a moment when trust and risk were still gambles worth taking. When a group of artists said, let's do something no one's ever done before, and actually meant it. There's something deeply Japanese in that spirit. To polish and perfect until perfection itself begins to hurt. It's not masochism, it's reverence. Akira is the embodiment of that. It wasn't simply drawn, it was willed into existence. Through exhaustion, obsession, faith in the craft itself. It's not just a movie. It's evidence of what happens when an artist like Otomo is given the backing he deserves. And with that, the will to assemble a collective work ethic so powerful, so unified, that it borders on the divine. And I'm not here to dissect the narrative or even the visual storytelling. I'm here to share what I find beautiful. To let one small detail become the thread, the spark, the guide for a creation of my own. Let me first say, this is just an exercise of influence. What I have chosen as a starting point might seem mundane, but that's the beauty of it. Because Akira, this beast of a production, is at its core a collection of little things. Hundreds of small, meticulous acts of care that somehow add up to something colossal. And here it is, a photo of a cell from someone's private collection. Look at it. The opacity of the paint, the hidden strokes of the brush, the deliberate choices in value and hue. Something about these just excites me, and while I work, I want to tell you about this fascination, and what this production means to me. What amazes me when I look at all this is that you can feel the devotion on screen. This wasn't beauty made with ease, it was beauty born of devotion. Even when that devotion must have been overwhelming, and yet look at it. The film stands alone, a monument to a moment that will never come again, a true behemoth of analog creation. Rendered with minutiae so intricate, so achingly romantic in a fatalistic sense, and yet so breathtaking in its aesthetic immersion. When you think about it that way, Akira isn't just a film. It's a record of what human endurance looks like when it's made visible. Let's talk numbers, because they matter here. This thing cost over 1.1 billion yen to make. That's roughly 8 to 10 million US dollars in 1988. For an animation. That's insane. And the animators? They weren't getting rich, not even close. They weren't executives, they were craftsmen. Living in the studio, eating at their desks, long hours, endless corrections, and I'm sure many sleepless nights. It's humbling to think that what we now consider one of the greatest animated achievements of all time was built on human labor at its most personal and punishing. To fund it, 10 major Japanese companies, publishers, toy makers, film studios banded together. They called themselves the Akira Committee. Kodansha, Toho, Bandai, and several others. They pooled their money and their faith to bring Otomo's vision to life. It wasn't just a business move, it was a collective act of faith. A moment where an entire industry agreed to chase something impossible. And honestly, for that, we should all be grateful, because what they made, what they suffered to make, still stands as one of the clearest examples of what happens when skill meets belief. That microscopic, obsessive detail, it made Akira more than a story. It made it a testament. While I'll be painting my own piece, it's not a replica. It's just my way of saying, I see what you did and I'm trying to feel it too. And this is for fun. I don't have to spend over a year painting cell after cell. I don't have those pressures. What I do have is the chance to enjoy the fruit of all their labor and let it move me and let it echo through my own work. Because that's part of it, isn't it? That decades later, the ripple of their devotion still has the power to reach us, to move us, to make us want to create. Let's start where they started, the pencil. The penciling is the first act, the moment thought becomes visible. It's the foundation, the blueprint, the purest expression of intent. Every frame of Akira began as a pencil drawing. By the time production began, Otomo had already drawn over 1,000 pages of the Akira manga, maybe 1,300 depending on who you ask. Every line in the film carries the weight of that experience. The pencil stage is where the scene's soul appears, before a single colour ever does. This is where the animators mapped everything out. Rough pencil lines sketched by the key animators, the architects of motion. From there, the work passed down the line. The Genga artists handled the motion keys. The Duga artists refined them. Please excuse my Japanese pronunciation. Storyboards became layouts. Layouts became blueprints. A shared language, a living document, passed from one pair of hands to the next. That's what I love about it, collaboration at the atomic level. While sketching for myself here, I'm building my own foundation, something simple enough to capture that animation cell spirit, but strong enough to stand on its own. And this is the part that always gets me. In Akira, the pencil drawings weren't just sketches, they were architecture. The city, the chaos, the faces, all born from graphite and paper. The refinement of those drafts into final frames started here. And that's why I'm beginning the same way, with pencil. It's the cheapest tool on the table, and still the most powerful one. When I start penciling, I'm thinking about communication, because every line in Akira was a message to another artist down the line, a note saying, here's what I'm trying to express, now take it further. That's the magic. That's why this film breathes. Now let's move on to the part that fascinates every maker I know, the cell. Every single frame of Akira was born of one of these transparent sheets, cellulose triacetate. Before 1981, most studios used diacetate, but by 88 they'd shifted to triacetate, tougher and more stable. Each cell was peg registered to align perfectly. Ink on the front, paint on the back, colour sealed behind the line, from what I hear. Under the fluorescent hum of the studio, hundreds of Finnish artists sat for months tracing Otomo's vision frame by frame. Behind them, colour coordinator Kimi Yamana oversaw everything, mixing, matching, cataloguing over 327 colours. Each pigment applied layer by layer, brushstroke by brushstroke, thick enough to catch the light, thin enough to dry flat. Then the cells were stacked over hand-painted backgrounds, sometimes several deep, to simulate sparks, reflections, rain, all that good stuff. In total, over 160,000 cells exposed one frame at a time, 24 frames for every second of animation. Think about that, 24 handcrafted compositions for every second you see. That's the kind of labour that humbles you. What you see on screen isn't digital illusion. It's the rhythm of human hands. It's a ballet of ink, paint, and light. And I mean ballet in the sense of, insane levels of practice, sore feet, sore bodies. So much happening behind the scenes that leads to this final moment, a show we get to experience and enjoy. But truly, there's so much beauty in my mind behind the scenes. There's so much beauty in what it is that's happening to get to that point. And I think being a maker, that's one of the most enjoyable parts for us to examine. Now let's talk about one of my favorite parts, the backgrounds. Because if you have ever painted, built a miniature, anything, let's say, remotely tedious, this is where your heart skips a beat. In Akira, the backgrounds weren't decoration, they were infrastructure. Under the art director Toshiharu Mizutani, again, sorry for my pronunciation, every board was treated like a blueprint for Neo Tokyo itself. They worked small, about 9 by 12 inches on average, to maintain precision and conserve material, with a few exceptions. This piece here, for instance, this is insanity. Mind-melting craftsmanship. They used high-grade Japanese materials, painting on paper with opaque and transparent poster colours, somewhere between a watercolour, gouache and acrylic. There are a few brands still around, but much like the Akira studio, I'll be mixing and tweaking my own, chasing that luminous palette that captures the same glow as the cell I've chosen. Brushwork for hard structure, airbrush for atmosphere. Some scenes even use stacked layers of paper and transparent foil to create depth, fog, diffusion. There's a record of one shot, cut number 2211, where they stacked 4 layers to capture the city's vertical sprawl. That's old school parallax, done entirely by hand. The artists, people like Hiroshi Ono and Takashi Watabe, use straight edge bridges, glass rod markers, precision guides for architecture, so sharp it looked machine cut. Look at these windows. Seriously, how can you not feel something? The result is a world that still feels tangible, not simulated, not generated, constructed. Every stroke balances discipline and spontaneity. You can see the architect's mind in the layout, and the painter's soul in the haze. Recreating even a fragment of that process teaches you humility, because this isn't about replication, it's about empathy. Every time I mix a color, I think about their patience. Every time I fix a mistake, I imagine the hundreds of times they did the same. It's impossible not to respect what they accomplished, that they endured, so that something so beautiful could exist. That kind of devotion stays with you. What I've been working on here, it doesn't even come close, but trying to capture even a fraction of that aesthetic has given me great joy. Ordering acetate to paint a single cell while imagining the thousands they produced, this has truly been a wonderful experiment. My painting's done, and now, just like in Akira, it's time for the cell overlay, and what a deep satisfaction it gives me to add this final touch. As I place that cell over my painting, I can't help but think of those artists in 1988, hundreds of them, hunched over their desks, watching their layers come to life, frame by frame. That quiet satisfaction. Because what they have made wasn't just a movie, it was proof. Proof that beauty can survive the impossible. And this little homage is my way of saying thank you to the people that showed us what happens when craft and devotion collide. That's Akira, and that's why we keep making things. I hope to do more experiments like this, examining the beauty and the minutiae of things and seeing what emerges from it. If you'd like to see more pieces like this, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.